Tell them all, whoever it is, I'll kill them. I'll kill them all. Of course you will.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has finally landed in theaters, so that means it's time for us to go into full spoilers about this movie, and that's exactly what I'll be doing here for you guys, is giving you my spoiler review for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, telling you my reaction on the movie, how I felt about the specific ending for this Guardian team, diving of course into the post-credits and end-credit scenes of this movie, overall just my entire thoughts. But it's not just going to be about my opinion here. I want you guys to turn that comment section into a full discussion. Really let me know, how did you feel about this ending chapter for Guardians of the Galaxy? Were you satisfied with the movie? Did you get as emotional as I did? Don't you dare lie to me or try to act like a tough little man. We know you was tearing up in that theater. If not, also tell me what negatives you had on the film if you're someone who's in the minority thinking, I didn't like this one. All in all, would love to hear it down below. But okay, diving straight into it here, in case you didn't see my spoiler-free review, just to reiterate some of my general thoughts on the movie, I really loved this film. I thought it was a great ending for this specific Guardian team. James Gunn once again knocked it out of the park. I thought it had a lot of emotion, surprisingly amount of dark moments. The humor felt really on point as opposed to some of these other Marvel films that have been coming out lately. The visual effects also extremely stunning, a great balance of CGI and practical effects. I really walked out with very little issues about the movie, mainly being about, you know, Adam Warlock and his screen time, it feeling a little bit over bloated, and I have watched the movie 2 times now, and on the second time, I really felt the runtime kind of dragging along, so if it was a little bit tighter, it would have been nice. But overall, I walked away extremely happy, feeling like this was top tier Marvel. For me, a definite step up into what we've gotten with like Quantumania, Thor Love and Thunder, even Multiverse of Madness. Which again, just to say, I'm not a hater of those movies, but I do think they're just fine. They're suitable, okay Marvel movies that could have been better. Okay, maybe I hate Love and Thunder though. But okay, diving straight into it here from the beginning, I like what they did with the opening logo and having all the Guardian members be a part of it. It wasn't just all MCU characters. That really gave it this kind of finale and focused feel, because that's one of the best things about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It didn't feel so intertwined and connected with the rest of the MCU. It also didn't feel like it was just trying to set up some other bigger, grander story or a Disney Plus series. There might be one. We'll talk about that as we get into more spoilers, but it felt very self-contained and like it was just focusing on its story. You know, you had Quantumania that felt like it was definitely there just to set up Kang into the MCU. Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I love that film, but also I feel like the Ironheart side of it felt like a definite setup just for a Disney Plus series. If you were someone who didn't watch WandaVision on Disney Plus, you might have been lost to a lot of what was happening in Multiverse of Madness. With Volume 3, there was only really 2 major things you needed to know, aside from like the other 2 movies, was one, Gamora dying in Endgame, and I feel like everybody knows that because that's like one of the biggest movies of all time. Of course, everyone has seen that. And the holiday special where they just reveal Mantis is actually the sibling of Star-Lord. But even then, they explain that in the movie, so it didn't even feel needed to watch the holiday special. So for me, that was just like a major positive. Once getting away from the title card here and just going into the little baby raccoon, starting up the backstories and flashbacks we would get about Rocket, oh man, I was already starting to get tearied up seeing a little baby Rocket just getting the High Evolutionary's hand into frame and it transitioning into adult Rocket. I thought that was a great way to start it. Even the little song choice, it was a very somber and slow one with Rocket singing, giving us a good idea of where the Guardians are, establishing themselves in nowhere, putting up a little bass. It was pretty different than the way all the other Guardian movies would start, you know? It was usually an upbeat, happy song that would get you kind of like in the dancing mood. This was setting you up to get really emotional. But from there is where they introduce us into Adam Warlock. So let's just start talking about the Adam Warlock stuff in this movie. So for one, I think Will Poulter was great in the role. He had a good introduction, showing off his strength. I was very curious if they would touch upon, you know, like the stone on his head, because that's supposed to be an Infinity Stone. And, you know, we've had this 6-year-long wait since he was teased in the second Guardians movie. There's kind of been like this buildup for him. And a lot of comic book fans are sad that he wasn't part of the Infinity War storyline, which is something he's most prominently known for. for. But even with me thinking, you know, Will Poulter did great in the role, it sometimes does feel like James Gunn just had to include him because he was set up. He didn't feel that vital to the story other than just injuring Rocket to kind of kickstart things. From there, he's just brought on sparingly throughout the movie, and I knew some people were going to get upset that they kind of dumbed him down. You know, they explained in the movie that the High Evolutionary was actually the one who not only created the Sovereigns, but also helped create Adam, who was supposed to be the Warlock of their kind, but they actually released him from his cocoon early, so he's kind of an adolescent. He's a grown man, but he still has kind of like the mind of a child. Definitely added for like some funny moments of comedy, like when he like zaps up that guy when he was just supposed to hurt him a little bit to get information out of him. That made me laugh, but I knew it was gonna piss off some people, especially the ones that don't like Drax being like the dumb, strong, funny guy, because that's kind of the personality they've attached to Adam. I also think there was like a missed opportunity to do something better with Adam in here, but it really goes to show you how much emotional stuff was happening that the film couldn't even spend time on it. As the movie continues on, Adam is constantly trying to find the Guardians so they can kidnap Rocket, bring him to the High Evolutionary so he can spare their people. And it gets to a point where they land on this planet that's about to destroy, and it causes who he believes to be his mother to die. And with all of the setting up that they did in this movie, showing that Adam right now is just a boy, he's just a kid, he's still learning about the facts of life, he's put on a mission, and that right there, for all intents and purposes, is his mom, and she just got killed in front of him. I felt like that could have been more of an emotional moment, or could have been a better turning point for Adam to go on the Guardian side early on, because that's the High Evolutionary's fault. But no, we don't really get to like live in that emotional state, and he doesn't turn onto the Guardian side until they rescue him much later on. But hopefully with what they're setting up by the end of this movie, there's more Adam to come in the future, which we'll get onto in a sec. Because now that Adam has done his main purpose for being in the movie and injuring Rocket, it puts the Guardians on this path to learn more about Rocket's past so that they can cure him, leading us into all of these flashback sequences involving Rocket. Now, this is something I definitely want to spend a lot of time talking about here because it was the most emotional, powerful part of this movie. I said this in my spoiler-free review. We've always known Rocket's story is tragic. It's been a sad one. He was experimented on, and Rocket's made that clear from the beginning. And now in this third film, having them flesh that out, I knew it wasn't going to be pretty, and I knew it was going to be sad, but I was not expecting for how sad it was going to be. So like, they introduce here a couple of friends that he was experimented along with that the High Evolutionary was working on, one of them being Laylla, a famous character in the comics that Rocket usually has a romantic relationship with. Really nice to include her in here along with all of the other kind of like misshapen characters, and that's where I can understand some of the big criticisms or people who are turned off by this movie, because the animal cruelty imagery you get in here can be a little bit much, man. I got 4 doggies of my own, and every time I looked into Rocket's eyes, I just imagined the eyes of my little ones. It made it that much more painful to see a lot of the stuff they were doing. Like, I was not expecting the first little bit of baby Rocket to be with his skull all showing, shaved off, bloody, and Rocket's first human words being hurts. That's making me really sad to think about right now. You know, everyone online got caught up with James Gunn letting the first F-bomb drop in a Marvel movie. I'm like, that's nothing compared to what we were witnessing in Rocket's backstory. I am shocked Kevin Feige and Marvel let him push it this far. And before we get to like the real dark stuff in the backstory here, there are some interesting things they threw in here that made you like understand or give some insight into Rocket when he's doing his first bit of lessons with the High Evolutionary and he sees the sky and then a rocket going by and his fascination with spaceships and wanting to fly them. It's like, okay, that like gives you some idea of where his name came from, why he likes to pilot, his intuition for engineering. The High Evolutionary is even playing music and Rocket's like, what is this? Do we like this? And that's something I always wondered about Rocket, because like in the second movie, it wasn't just Star-Lord who loved hearing his Walkman and have music. Rocket was a big fan of music and he liked playing it just as much as Star-Lord. And I always thought, well, I wouldn't expect Rocket to like music. That's interesting. And now having this backstory, it just adds more to what we've seen of Rocket from other movies. And then another scene in the flashback with like Rocket and the High Evolutionary that created such a great dynamic between them that really like intrigued me with the concepts they were trying to explore in this movie is how like the whole purpose the High Evolutionary has in this movie is to basically play God. He thinks of himself as God. There was even one line in the film where like an employee tells him, what in God's name are you doing? And he like yells and says, God isn't real, that's why I stepped in. It was like some really strong, heavy symbolic stuff here. So when you have Rocket, something that he created and he thinks of himself as God, and Rocket is solving problems that he himself didn't know how, and it caused him to be like drunk and question himself and even almost like a little bit scared that he's created something that could surpass him. I thought that was fascinating. He even gets like really mad in Rocket's face going, how did you know I created you? That's where, again, I just want to praise the performance by Chikuta Owuji, because I saw some people saying, oh, he's just a villain that was yelling and was bad for the sake of being bad. Yeah, maybe he was a little bit one-dimensional, but again, I think the concepts they were exploring here in playing God and what it means to be perfect and the commentary about how much we appreciate life. Do we only appreciate it when it's a higher life form capable of thinking and creating things, or do we think all life is precious, even the ones that aren't as intelligent? I think at one point James Gunn was able to throw in the whole creation of Adam painting into the movie with Adam Warlock. Just really awesome stuff there. But okay, that brings us into like the most heartbreaking part of this movie, and this is the scene I was talking about, my spoiler-free review, that this scene, once Rocket finds out they're about to dissect his brain and they're gonna kill his friends, and he's like, we have to get out of here, we can be a family together, oh my god, I can't even explain it without getting teary-eyed. But Rocket here creating a key to help them escape, they hug, they're finally thinking they're in the clear, and Laylla gets shot in the back by the High Evolutionary. And it really wasn't even like Layla's death that was so sad to me, it was Rocket's reaction to the death. Just seeing him standing over her body and just do nothing but verbally yell in pain, that's what broke me. Because the movie established so well why Rocket loves these people, they're his only family. So it like really just broke my heart for Rocket that he lost someone that important to him. But even then, I was teary-eyed in this moment. I was sad. But the waterworks did not start a-flowing until Rocket jumps onto the High Evolutionary and starts just ripping his face apart. That, to me, is one of the most powerful scenes ever in the MCU. It rivals the Tony Stark death for me. The way James Gunn shot it, where you just hear the viciousness of Rocket in that moment, clawing up his face, zooming in on the High Evolutionary's bloody mouth, and the agonizing pain from his scream. It was something I never thought I'd see in a Marvel movie. And it's like the pain doesn't even stop there, because like once Rocket is done with the High Evolutionary, guards come in, he picks up a gun, shoots them out, turns around and sees that his other two friends just got shot to death. It really is, to me, one of the most heartbreaking origin stories of any character in the MCU. It's not only such a tragic backstory, but it's an insightful one, because now knowing this is what made Rocket the way he is, you can go back and watch moments in the MCU with Rocket in them, and you see them with a different light. The first time Groot died on Rocket in the first Guardians movie, how much that must have meant to him. You move forward to like Avengers Endgame and the speech Rocket gives Thor about, I've lost people too, we're all doing this for a reason. It means so much more now knowing that Rocket finally found a family. So even though I'm emotionally wrecked from all that, I walked away so happy that the MCU could make me feel that way once again with what they were putting out lately. It's not only one of the reasons I love the MCU, but is why I love movies, because they can just draw out these traumatizing feelings. But putting the Rocket stuff aside from a little bit, the other big thing I want to talk about with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is, you know, all of us were expecting someone to die in this movie. And if you see the movie, you know, nobody does die. At least none of the core Guardian members, you know, in the trailers and whatnot, they've been building up like maybe somebody dies, whether it's Star-Lord, Drax, or even Rocket Raccoon. And I've already seen some fans online kind of like disappointed that nobody died, or they thought that the movie needed a character death for it to be that meaningful. And I'm actually really happy they didn't kill any of these characters off. You know, if you really want to be literal about it, although none of the team members die, the team did die. And that was kind of like a bittersweet moment of the movie, is seeing the Guardian team basically all go their separate ways, going individually with each member here, and whether me thinking it was the right choice for them or not, starting off with Drax. I thought they did some really good stuff with Drax in here, you know. For the longest time, Drax has been that character that's gotten a lot of criticism for being the dumb one, you know. He's the butt of the joke, he's the funny man, and this movie kind of addresses that. There's a moment moment where Mantis is defending Drax to Nebula, where he's like, so what if he's dumb? He makes us laugh. He protects us. He's the only one on this team that doesn't hate himself. To me, that felt kind of like James Gunn talking to the audience and addressing those criticisms. It's like, look, you guys don't like the fact that Drax turned into this idiot, but he's also funny. He's also the only one on the team who's mainly happy. There's like a lot of positives to Drax that we didn't see, and I had completely forgotten his backstory of being a father, a family man who lost that to Thanos. So when the movie brings it full circle and Drax ends up becoming a family man again, helping Nebula rebuild this society and working as a father figure, I love that for him, and it fits well with his character. And I mentioned in my spoiler-free review, with characters like Nebula and Mantis, I've never loved them more than the way I do in this Guardians movie. I felt like they were used to their full potential, and I really grew to like them. I was never the biggest fan of Nebula. She was just always an angry, robotic, kind of one-note character to me. I wasn't that thrilled when she joined the team. But here, they also gave her some great moments here, and finally, she found a family, people who care for her. The moment where she's like defending Star-Lord against Gamora, like that Badger actually gave me a few upgrades. He's family to me. I'd prefer him not to die. I liked Nebula showing that kind of emotion because that feels something rare for her. Also was a big fan of her arm cannon and all the things it could do. I thought that was a nice little upgrade, and it's cool to know Rocket made that for her. So her kind of wanting to leave the team to kind of lead nowhere, rebuild the society of the kids they saved from the High Evolutionary, I like that for Nebula. Good little send-off. Mantis, another one, a character I really didn't care all that much for. Yeah, she was funny at times, but here, used to her full potential. Her fight scenes were so fun in this movie when she's battling people, touching them, going, you're a kitty cat, you like to dance. Or that scene she had where she made the security guard fall in love with Drax. Mantis was hilarious here. And she also worked like as the glue of the team. You can see her kind of being the mom, wanting to fix everybody's problems, looking after her brother, defending Drax. And even when the team would get in these fights, I like that dynamic. It's dumb to think that this team would be happy 24/7 and always in perfect unison. So when Mantis explains that, you know, I have to leave the team too. I have to go find myself. For years, I was a slave to Ego, the villain and father of Star-Lord from the second movie, and then I was just doing whatever the Guardians wanted. That actually makes a lot of sense to me, and you could interpret it either way. Maybe as a setup for a Disney Plus series where we'll get a solo Mantis adventure. I wouldn't mind that. But the actress has already talked about having discussions with James Gunn about joining the DC universe, so maybe it really is her leaving the MCU so she can now be a superhero in the DC universe. Whatever the case may be, it was still a good ending, because when she turns around and gives Drax that goodbye, emotional. It's like one of those things that makes you sad but happy at the same time. Moving on to Rocket here and him ending up becoming the leader of the team. This was kind of hesitant for me the first time around, because I thought the whole point of Rocket's story was that he finally found a family. He found friends he can stick together with. So I was a little sad to see the team go their separate ways, but on my second viewing, it really did click for me, you know, when he's in heaven about to cross over to the other side and he sees his friends again, which again, another tearful emotional moment for me. Laylla explaining to him that's like, no, you have a greater purpose. Your job here is to protect those without a voice, is to protect the people who can't be protected, and that is what Rocket is. So him becoming the leader of the Guardians, it made sense to me, and I like that he's leading a new team, even if it's not with his best friends. He'll make new ones along the way, but his purpose is just to save those around him like he wished someone saved him. Another controversial ending here that I'm seeing some fans debate on is the way they did the Star-Lord and Gamora thing. I'm gonna tell you guys, I love that they didn't make them get back together. I think it was perfect the way it was handled in this movie. It's not the same Gamora. I actually would have been really bothered if they did the thing where they just made them fall in love again, be together, and then unite as a team. It would have come off cheesy to me. I like that they took this realistic approach. Nebula, whenever she joined the Guardians or interacted with them, was just teeter-tottering between still following Thanos, but also wanting to leave him because she started to see things go way south. And in that first Guardian movie, she ended up finding her version of the family. Here, getting Gamora from 2014 that was still deep into Thanos' control, being cold-hearted, willing to kill and whatnot, it kind of makes sense that she joins up with the thieving group of Ravengers and makes a family there. I like that the story arc became more of Star-Lord coming to peace with his love with Gamora is over, and he'll always have those memories of his real Gamora and what they had, just like that little line that Gamora tosses him, finally acknowledging that maybe they could have had something where she goes, I bet we were fun. And he goes, oh, you wouldn't believe. I like that. I think that was a great ending for them. They don't need to be together in this version. But now, before I jump into the post-credit and end credit scene and what I could speculate they're going to do further on into the MCU, a couple more spoilery random thoughts of the movie. I did really like Cosmo in there. I'm glad that she got a lot of screen time. I even like the little relationship she was having with Kraglin and with calling her a bad girl until she saves him. I thought that was a sweet moment. Groot, I felt very underutilized in this movie, but I'm okay with it because Groot got so much development in all the other films. I still think he had some badass moments, like when he busted out all the guns for Star-Lord in that one scene. That was really cool. But also when he told the group, I love you guys, like that was just sweet and heartwarming. I'm even loving what some fans are theorizing with that scene, just like how Gamora over time finally now understands Groot. Some fans are theorizing that it's us, the audience, now understanding what Groot says. So he probably said, I am Groot in that moment, but us as the audience can now understand him because we're also part of the Guardians. At least I like that fan theory. I also definitely have to mention the one-take hallway scene, one of the coolest action set pieces the MCU has ever done. It's also funny that they also played No Sleep Till Brooklyn, because that's a song they played in the Super Mario movie where Chris Pratt was Mario, and then Chris Pratt over here as Star-Lord also is listening to it. That Garfield movie comes out, I need you to play No Sleep Till Brooklyn. But it's a great example of what I meant, where in the Mario movie, although I enjoyed the song showing up in there, it was just kind of like a simple drop. Oh, the Mario Bros are in Brooklyn, so just play that Brooklyn song. But with James Gunn over here, who really is specific with his song choice and makes sure the song goes with the scene, you can see how much differently it feels when the director pays attention to that. So that entire fight scene with the Guardians all doing their thing and Rocket jumping in the air shooting his gun, oh, it was just such a badass scene. And speaking of badass moments, and also a very satisfying one, when Rocket finally embraces his comic book name, Rocket Raccoon, while he's taking down the High Evolutionary with all the Guardian members. With how much I was hating this villain for all the right reasons, it was so satisfying seeing all of them take him down. I also thought the cameos that James Gunn brought in of his friends like Nathan Fillion was hilarious. I even found it pretty funny he got to shoot his wife in the leg. I guess one negative spoilery thing, I'm like, why didn't Star-Lord wear his mask the entire movie? That could have really have come in handy when he was in space, not able to breathe, if he just wore his mask. Not sure why they left that out. But okay, jumping on here, starting off with the post-credits scene that you get right after the movie ends is the new Guardian team. So here, Rocket is now leading a team with Cosmo, Kraglin, King Groot. Love that they gave him his comic accurate look. Adam Warlock, definitely happy he's a member of the team. And kind of an unexpected one of the kids the High Evolutionary was experimenting on, Laylla. This is a character in the comics that is part of the Comic Guardian team. They have ties to Captain Marvel, and their powers can kind of be described as Captain Marvel-like. You even see one of her eyes and hands start to glow like it does in the comics. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering if they're going to make solo movies now with this new Guardian team. I kind of doubt it. I like knowing that there's a Guardian team out there led by Rocket doing adventures saving the universe, and we don't have to see those adventures. We just gotta know they're out there. I don't think they'll be getting solo movies, but maybe they'll show up in team-up films like Secret Wars or big Avenger films. We'll just see them as the current Guardians helping out. So I don't really take it as a tease that we're gonna get like Guardians 4 with this new team. They could, who knows? But honestly, I'd be happy if they didn't, and that's just where they leave it. Bringing us now to the end credit scene here that I gotta say kind of surprised me. We get to see Star-Lord Chris Pratt go back to finally see his grandfather that he left all those years back. Pretty nice, sweet moment. And he's decided to live with him for the remainder of his years on Earth, just kind of recollecting himself, being with the family he was running away from. I like that for them. And they're sitting down. He's eating some cereal. We get a little Easter egg on a newspaper to the Kevin Bacon situation from the holiday special. They're diving into some neighborhood gossip and whatnot. I thought it was a random little end credit scene. Then the words pop up. The legendary Star-Lord will return. And that made me go, huh? I kind of was not expecting Star-Lord, or at least any of these Guardian members, to kind of come back after this movie. I fully believe when they said, whether they live or die, this will be the end of the Guardian story. So to get the confirmation that out of all those Guardian members, Star-Lord Chris Pratt is the one returning, That was kind of surprising. And you know what? I welcome it. I like the idea of Chris Pratt still continuing on. You know, Marvel is losing a lot of their familiar, popular faces. So it kind of makes sense that they want to keep him back. And it makes even more sense now why they made him come to Earth. There's going to be an event, most likely Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars, where Star-Lord, being the hero he is gonna see his Earth in danger and is gonna want to help and join the Avengers. At least that's what I'm hoping is going to happen, because with them saying the legendary Star-Lord, that sounds to me like the title of a Disney Plus series, does it not? I feel like that could be a little random Star-Lord adventure on Earth where he's just trying to live a normal life, something bad happens in his neighborhood or in his town, and him being a hero slash guardian, he's not gonna want to back down, and we'll see like a 6 to 8 episode series of him doing some random Earth mission by himself. At least that's just what I think with them calling him the legendary Star-Lord. Why not just Star-Lord will return again? You know what I mean? Still though, those are just my thoughts with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I would really love to hear from you guys. I know I was just gushing about some random details in there. I'm a little sensitive, I know, but I'm curious to see if you guys felt the same way, if you felt the opposite. Anything and everything, be sure to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.